Hello and welcome. This is Paul Dalton bringing you the next in the series of Living with Purpose interviews, inspiring conversations with inspiring people who have made a personal commitment to follow their truth and to live in accordance with their own sense of purpose in the world. Now, my guest today is Elaine Hopkins, aka the Redundancy Crusader. Now, the reason that I've been so keen to have Elaine come and speak with us is because I consider Elaine to be a shining example of someone who's taken the painful experience of adversity, i.e. redundancy, and flip it on its head to create a wonderful opportunity that is now a force for good in the world. Now, if you've ever heard that expression, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade, then Elaine is making some pretty good lemonade at the moment. Not only is her work as the Redundancy Crusader helping more and more people move through the experience of redundancy in a more positive and empowered way, but she's also encouraging the corporate world to really take a look at how redundancy is handled from beginning to end, so it's done in a more respectful and human way. Now, Elaine is a master practitioner of NLP and a coach. She is the author of the book Redundancy Sucks, an NLP guide to thriving and surviving after the axe. And Elaine has also appeared on national TV talking about her work as the Redundancy Crusader and explaining her model of redundancy with respect. So I'm excited about this conversation, Elaine. Without any further ado, let's bring you on. Elaine, hello, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Paul, for inviting me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. Excited to have you here. So, Elaine, perhaps we could start by having you describe your own experience of redundancy and how that led you into assuming the role as the Redundancy Crusader.
Okay. I got made redundant in June 2010 from an organisation that I'd worked for 9 years. And this was absolutely an organisation that I revered, because going to work there was the very best thing that ever happened to me, because they introduced me to coaching, they paid for my NLP training, my coaching training. This was the organisation that really helped me to turn my life around, because I was stuck in a very painful place. And they'd always treated me like an adult. They'd always treated me with the utmost respect. And some tough things had happened when I was there. I'd been ill, my father had died, and they just absolutely walked the talk and done everything perfectly. So I'd always thought if it came to redundancy, they would treat me respectfully. And what happened was the polar opposite of that, because they called me in when I was off sick. They said it was a meeting just to find out how I was doing. It wasn't, it was a redundancy meeting. The person, my line manager, who was also a friend, actually refused to acknowledge that relationship. So I just got all this corporate mumbo jumbo about times are hard, da-di-da. And it was just so disrespectful that after about 10 minutes, I just thought to myself, do you know what? This is the organisation that taught me to respect myself. I'm not giving you permission to treat me in this manner. So I just pulled it to a halt. And two bizarre things happened as soon as I got outside. One was I had Woody the Woodpecker in my head going, redundancy with respect, redundancy with respect. And I think, oh, okay, put that to one side. And the other thing was I was just on the phone to my brother saying, can you give me the name of that employment lawyer that you know? And I never in a million years thought I would end up threatening to sue my employer. But that's what I did. And it wasn't about the money. It was about, for me, the money was a proxy for the respect.
I know that you've gone from that space of being angry through the redundancy, but you flipped it on its head to turn it into something extremely positive, and you've a new model of redundancy. You also do a lot of work with helping other people through redundancy. So tell us a bit about what Redundancy Crusader is all about.
It's all about two things, really. One is helping those who are going through it to get over it and to get on with the rest of their life. Because I've interviewed a lot of people now who've been through it, and I think practically all of them have said that although it was hideous and horrible at the time, actually in the end it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to them, because it really is an opportunity for people to just stop and take stock and think, okay, that's what I've been doing up until now, but is that really what I want to do going forward? So there's that strand, and the other strand is I think when I was made, no, I know when I was made redundant, I honestly thought that the law said you must do it this way. And then I met an employment law specialist, bizarrely through Twitter, and she very kindly sat down with me and just took me through what's really going on. And she contributed a chapter to the book. And once I realised that actually it's nothing to do with the law says very little about how you make people redundant. So what's going on really, I think, are two things. One, everything is now compliance-led. So organisations are so desperate to tick every single box that they sort of box themselves in. And I think by doing that, they're so focused on the compliance that any compassionate element goes out the door. But bizarrely, I think because they're so focused on that, because they're doing that because they don't want to be sued. But I actually think by doing that, they are increasing their likelihood of being sued, because actually people appreciate being treated as a human being.
Yes. How has that shaped the redundancy with respect model? What's the key proposals for redundancy with respect?
The key proposals are that it doesn't come as a surprise, that organisations realise that the current model is damaging everybody. Because I think there's some kind of illusion that when you're having a redundancy meeting, somehow that stays within those four walls. And it absolutely doesn't, because there's something called emotional contagion, which is basically the reason why if one baby in a maternity ward cries, all the others cry. So the fact that redundancies are going on in this manner affects the people who are doing it, because we're wired to be kind, so that cuts right against our very humanity. And also it seeps out to affect those who stay behind. Because if you think about it, the bond of trust between an employer and employees is actually fairly fragile. If they know people are being treated harshly at the point of departure, then people lose trust. And there's a load of academic research proving that after redundancy exercises, employee morale, productivity, retention rates, all these things drop. So it's actually in organisations' best interest to do it properly. And also recently I've just been looking at some organisations' corporate social responsibility policies. Now, if they're really signing up to all that good stuff, I don't really see how they can be doing redundancy in this manner, because redundancy isn't confined to just the employees. Because if you think about it, the effects ripple outwards. There's their families, there's the communities in which they live. So in my map of the world, redundancy is something that affects all of us.
Yes. About 3 years ago, you could never have seen yourself being the redundancy crusader. This wasn't really on your horizon. And I'm very interested in what it's done for you on a personal level, because obviously through these interviews, living with purpose, how has this resonated with your sense of purpose in the world and how you interact with your work?
If I net it right down, I feel as if I'm living for the first time in my life. Everything before was just existing. I used to be a copywriter. I've always loved writing. I still love writing. So writing is a passion. I didn't always enjoy the context in which I did it. I didn't always enjoy the people I had to interact with, but that was a big passion. But even that is not the same as this, because this is here. And it's everywhere I go, I seem to learn something that informs what I'm doing. And I think that's just because I have the redundancy filter.
Yes.
And I have the redundancy filter because this is my fate, my destiny, my vocation, my calling. Whatever label I attach to it, it is my passion.
What do you see as some of the common elements that always bubble up when somebody really truly finds their passion and their purpose?
I think it's that thing about when you serve others, you also serve yourself. Because I really struggled with stepping into this. It was like, no, go away, choose something else. I do not want to do this. Then after a very deep, very dark night of the soul, I said, okay, right, I'm accepting this. And if I look back over the past couple of years, I think what is extraordinary is that I have developed and grown so much, and I've already done things that I never thought I would be able to do. And it's not a question of me forcing myself to do them. I think when you have a purpose and a focus that is so much bigger than you, it just pulls you forward.
Yes.
And it's not always an easy journey. You know, I've been in some pretty dark places, but I think what's useful for me is suddenly I'll stop and look back and think, oh, hello, I've been on television 3 times. And in June last year, I remember having a really big wobbly because I was going to have to go and appear in front of a video camera for the first time. Well, now I make videos for YouTube all the time, because it's not about me standing in front of a camera. It's about me saying something that may help to change the way people are experiencing redundancy, the way corporates are doing it.
Yes, yes. And what would you say are some of the key things that you've learned about yourself in the pursuit of living true to your purpose?
There's something really attractive to others when you're coming from your heart, when you're speaking with passion. I'm the employment law specialist I referred to earlier. When I first met her, and we wrote the chapter for the book, she was very, oh yes, great Elaine, but you never get HR to change. And now, not only is she a fantastic friend, but she's also my biggest advocate. She's always connecting me with people, introducing me to people, saying, right, we're going to go and do this. So next month we're going to be on Croydon Radio together. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's also, I don't know, I just feel a completely different person. I almost don't have that sense of I can't do whatever it is. I can do whatever my crusade calls me to do.
Yes. It's fascinating, isn't it, how it only takes a couple of personal experiences of doing the things that we previously thought that we were unable to do.
Yes.
Blows our theory out of the water in terms of, well, I can't let myself off the hook anymore because I can prove I can do the impossible, based on my old perceptions of myself. So as we continue to grow, more and more becomes possible for us.
Yeah, I'd spent my entire life avoiding public speaking, and then had a bit of a light bulb moment one day and thought, don't really think I can be at the front of a crusade if I'm not going to be able to kind of do that Henry V bit and speak. And so I embraced that, and I've discovered that not only do I enjoy doing it, but actually I'm very good at it.
Yes.
I mean, it's still a work in progress, but if you'd have said to me I could stand up and talk to 20 people, say, without even having rehearsed it, and enjoy it and make a reasonable fist of it, I said, oh, don't be daft.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
There's just that sense all the time of stepping into your potential and just thinking, oh, how far can this take me?
Yeah. And what a difference it seems to have made to take the attention off of what are people thinking of me while I'm doing it, and having our attention in doing it in honour of service to other people. That's a completely different energy to come from, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that seems to be most consistent in the conversations that I've had in previous interviews and also with people in my network is having a sense of purpose is one thing, but having to overcome your own resistance in terms of doing getting up every day and living true to your purpose is quite another. So what's some of the resistance that you've had to overcome, either in yourself or the resistance from other people?
I think the big one for me was actually saying, yes, I'm going to do this, because I had the redundancy with respect thing minutes after my own meeting ended. And it was funny because when I look back, people who were helping me put my business together were saying, oh, the redundancy thing is going to be the big thing. And I'm going, oh, no. Let's focus on everything else. And I did that. And then almost exactly a year after I got made redundant, I nearly died in a cycling accident in Spain. And after I got over it, there was a moment when I was on a personal development course, and I was working with 2 people that I didn't know, and they were reading my energy, and they were seeing these images of me dressed in a cloak, having a pen, and being a person of really some influence. And what was bizarre about that was they were seeing exactly the same images as I had seen a couple of years previously when I was doing a past life regression, when I was learning hypnotherapy. And they just kept saying, have you got any idea how big this is? Do you realise how influential you are? And I was sort of going, no. And the course lasted for 4 days. And in many ways, they were the worst 4 days of my life, because I knew it was about the redundancy with respect thing. And I so did not want to do it. And I felt as though I was in a crumpled heap when I finally said, okay. So that was the big one. And then there have been other things. I mean, even I've kind of been playing about for about a month about setting up a meetup group, which I know lots of other people do all the time. But for me, there's something about just stepping up to the front and being a leader in some sense that I was really, really resisting. And in the end, I thought, I am wasting so much energy fighting this that I think it would be easier just to do it.
Give in to the inspiration.
And I did, I asked the classic coaching question, what's the worst that can happen? And I thought, okay, yeah, the worst that can happen is nobody turns up, or I'm not great first time out, why would I be? And once you kind of answer those questions, you can then move on. So when I actually pressed the button, I set it up and I found the venue, I was like, oh, what was all that about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so much. It takes so much more energy to try and work our lives out in theory, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's by taking the first step and measuring, what happens as we go along, that the next step reveals itself to us, and we realise that we've become much stronger as a result of that. So Elaine, what's next? What's next for the Redundancy Crusade and Redundancy with Respect? Where's the vision, and where do you want to take that?
I'm working on a number of things at the minute. I'm putting together workshops, both for people who are going through it and for the corporate world. I'm putting together a talk about what I think is wrong with the current model of redundancy. And I really want to just open up the debate, start having a conversation with the corporate world about how we can do it differently and what's in it for everybody. And I've also decided that I'm going to run some redundancy retreats.
Good.
For people who are going through it. I had that idea a long time ago, and then I suddenly realised that within the Inspired Entrepreneur community, I'd met the people who can help me make that a reality. And for me, there's something really inspiring about working with others who are coming from the same place of love and service and just want to really bring their talents into the world and stand up.
Yes, it is huge, isn't it? And that's one of the things that I've learned from a personal point of view as well, is that our purpose can only come truly alive when we start to accept the support and encouragement from like-minded people around us. The way I've seen that is they're on their purpose too, and they're there for a reason, and they're often there to help you fill in your blanks. So completely resonate with that idea of community and help.
Yeah, what I love about it is, I'll be there thinking, oh, I can't run a meetup group. And then you trip over somebody who's running a hugely successful meetup group. So you've got all that knowledge and encouragement there, because that isn't one of their blank spots. That's something they can do.
Yes.
And I'm aware that I inspire others because there are some things that I find very easy to do. And I just think that give and take, the flow of it is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and everyone's there to hold each other to account, right?
Yes,
so no one lets you off the hook. You said you were going to do this. Have you done it?
That helps as well. The meetup guy said to me, okay, so when are you going to run your first meeting? I'm thinking, okay, it's out there now.
Oh, this is real. Brilliant, Elaine. Look, we're coming up to the end of the interview. I always like to finish the interviews with what I call a simplicity question. And that is, for anyone who is watching this interview being inspired to investigate their own life's purpose, if there was one piece of advice or tip or observation that you've had about living happily, successfully, and living on purpose, what one thing would you share?
I would just say follow your gut instinct. So it doesn't matter what inner critic's saying, it doesn't matter what your logic is saying. I think there's a Buddhist saying that the heart knows, and it so does. So I think however wacky it seems, however mad it seems, however impossible it seems, just take the next step.
Good stuff. There's nothing logical about living
No,
your purpose.
no,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Elaine. So we've mentioned redundancy is an issue that affects so many people, and you're putting so much positive good out into the world in terms of your new model of redundancy.
Yeah.
So how do people get in contact with you and find out more about your work?
Okay, if they go, there's redundancyrespect.com, which talks about both sides, the givers and the takers, or if they're going through it, there's redundancycrusader.co.uk. So there's loads of blogs, there's loads of videos. Just have a look around, see what resonates with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you for watching, and I really encourage you to check out Elaine's work with the Redundancy Crusader and Redundancy Respect. But until next time, you have my very best wishes. Please take care of yourself, and thank you, Elaine, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Goodbye.